Welcome back to the Po2 podcast. I'm Amber,
And I'm Jay.
and this week we are going to be reviewing season 4, episode 6, The TALLEYMAN Cometh. And this episode was written by Sydney Quashie.
Just in time for the show.
He isn't just using the spiders for surveillance. He's using them as bombs. Okay, we need to find him before he goes full Unabomber.
Sorry, the show must go on. Charmed.
So, before I start this video, I just want to give a shout out because this week we've had some, I don't want to say growth, but we've had a little bit of attention from the Charmed writers. I guess they're aware of what we do and they're aware of our little podcast. We had Blake Taylor, and Tommy Cook. Both of them are now following us on Twitter. We also had a follow from executive producer Jeffrey Lieber. So he is aware of us, and he actually liked one of my tweets that I put up about that I was editing the latest podcast and things. It's really nice that the writers are paying attention to our little podcast because we're so small, and we both put a lot of work into these videos and these podcasts, but particularly for me, it takes me a long time to do these videos, and because our audience is so small, we don't necessarily get a lot of feedback. So it's really nice when somebody takes the time to, especially someone who's a part of the process of making the show, actually is acknowledging what we're doing and commenting on it or just interacting with us. It for me, it's rewarding.
I used to do the editing before, and it was a huge hassle. I mean, since you've taken over with the start of season 4, you've just done a phenomenal job. And then you also add graphics on top of that with intercut memes or little jokes. I mean, you've really done a good job.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm glad that you're getting some kudos from the Charmed writers, and I'm hoping more and more people listen. I would love feedback. At this point, we're just doing it because we're fans. It would be nice if we can evolve to the point where we can do this as a nice side gig. But even then, I mean, it starts with engagement. So if you're listening to this, leave us a comment. Be honest. Let us know what we can do better, or what you liked, didn't like, what you would like us to talk about. There's so many different things we can talk about.
A few moments later.
So, what did you think of this week's episode?
I really liked it. I did not see the end coming. Spoilers. Go watch the episode if you haven't. We're not going to recap anything, so go watch it on the CW app. So at the end of this episode, I guess the Tallyman vanquishes himself. He takes out himself, and it's revealed that he's working under Sunshine, the bartender.
Yeah, that was a big twist.
So I don't know how to feel about that. I was liking that this season had a big bad, and I guess it's just one of those twists where you think you know who the big bad is, and then it's revealed someone else is, and they were under their nose the whole time, because I believe Sunshine, or Sunny, I think her name is Sunny.
Yeah, Sunny.
I believe Sunny was a recurring character or a background character from the get-go this season, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in the premiere episode just as like a bartender.
So it's kind of sneaky that they did that, because we were not expecting that. So I don't know how to feel about the Tallyman being gone, because he seemed like this Jack Nicholson type character, and I was expecting to see him a lot more. Maybe we'll see him in flashbacks, or maybe he's not totally gone. Maybe there's something coming. But I wanted to know more about him as a character because, you know, we saw a flashback of him as a gremlin, or we saw when he was younger, I guess with his brother. So I wanted to know more about him being a gremlin and why he is the way he is, which is interesting because the Tallyman is like something that people, the magical community talked about like it was like a folk tale, right? They had a nursery rhyme and everything. So I'm just surprised that he's just like this regular, I'm assuming like low level magical being,
Yeah, it's just a
gremlin.
low, yeah, just a gremlin.
So I'm not sure if this is the end of him. If he's really gone, I guess it was a little underwhelming. That's my only complaint. But overall, I really like the pairings in this episode. I like all the scenes, like everything, how things were divided up. What did you think?
So I really, really love this episode. I actually think it's probably, in my opinion, I think it was the strongest of the season. I think what I liked about this episode most of all, I think, is the emotional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the show when it's dealing with drama and we're dealing with like emotions. I'm not like that big a fan of when it gets like, you know, silly and stuff. So to have the girls kind of going through different emotional situations, different aspects of what they're dealing with in their lives, because this episode makes it very clear that Macy's not gone. She's not left the show. That she's not, they're not doing a poo with her. They're not going to pretend that she doesn't exist, or, you know, they're still talking about her. This, she's still a part of the story. And in this episode, we get to see Maggie dealing with the fact that she has to go to anger management because of she took that guy out, and you know, her therapist ends up being her dad, which was kind of a nice sort of segue for them to get him in. He just kind of, I don't know, switched with him or something.
Yeah, his friend Chuchi. I don't know if we've met Chuchi yet, but he's also the one that provided that magical portrait that let Kayla see her biological parents. So that's already twice where this Chuchi person has, you know, stepped in and helped the girls out. In this episode, I think that's what happened. I think he made a deal with the people in charge of like the whole anger management program and then let Maggie's dad come in to work with her instead, which I don't think that would work in real life. Let's be honest. I think that having him there, I mean, it works for the show, but I mean, it was a little bit unrealistic, but I can forgive it because it's nice to see him again. So,
Yeah. And so this episode really deals with the fact that Maggie says she's angry, and she's angry at herself. She blames herself for Macy's death because she has the power to see the future. She feels like it was her responsibility to warn Macy that, you know, the whispering evil was going to attack her, and she felt like she could have stopped that, and unfortunately she couldn't. Sorry.
can I be a little shady here?
What?
Okay, so I like that, you know, because Maggie is the Phoebe version of the reboot, right? Well, like
Mm.
Maggie is Phoebe's counterpart from the original. So for her character to mourn the eldest sister so much and to even feel guilty and be angry at herself for like believing that she could have prevented her death, it's just really funny because in the original Charmed, Phoebe was the one who I don't think I'm not going to say she didn't mourn Prue, but she really moved on fairly quickly and she was all about Cole, whereas Piper was the one that was just a sobbing mess. And technically, if you think about it, Phoebe contributed a lot to Prue's death because she wasn't there. She
Yeah.
stayed in the underworld. She was so preoccupied with her relationship with Cole that she got stuck in the underworld. And because of that, she wasn't there to help Piper and Prue. And as we learned on, in the next episode, that Prue didn't survive.
How could this happen?
It's just funny how in this show the Phoebe character, Maggie, she's like torn with guilt.
Yeah. And so the main plot for this episode is the Tallyman leaves a parcel on the doorstep of Vera Manor, and this parcel happens to have a spider on the front. The plot for this episode is really what is in the box. What is the box doing? Why is the Tallyman giving them this box?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we kind of segue towards the end of the episode. It's revealed they put a containment spell on the box and try to open the box, and they reveal that it's one of his games, because the Tallyman likes to play games. He likes to toy with his victims. That's kind of what he does. And it turns out that the plot for this episode is he is going to kill hundreds of innocents.
Right.
During the mourning of victims of the faction from season 2.
So, rewinding a little bit, because I wanted to talk a little bit about this whole spider motif. Is it ever explained? Like, do you think it'll ever be explained why the Tallyman has such an affinity for spiders?
No, I don't think we're going to find out.
Yeah, and they're not even real spiders. They're mechanical. I guess it makes sense because they've established that, they didn't establish, they just implied that gremlins are very into mechanical things. Like that's where their power lies, I guess. So it makes sense that he uses mechanical spiders, but I just wish they'd flesh him out. So he's like this Riddler type character. He's always like manipulating things, pushing things around, leaving clues, leaving little things for people to pick up. Or I guess maybe Sunny is the one doing that, but as up until now, the Tallyman has been very Jigsaw Riddler
So we also got to learn a little bit more about the Unseen in this episode. The Unseen are a faction of magical creatures who are pretty much against the Charmed Ones. It appears that they've got a grudge, that they don't. They're kind of like, I don't know how you would describe them. It's almost like they're trying to make them into like some kind of like what we said in the previous episode, like a
political thing.
Yeah, like a political group, kind of conspiratorial, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because Harry and Jordan go to investigate the guy from the previous episode that blew himself up.
Yeah, the bomber.
Sorry, you guys.
That also, saying that out loud, that in itself also sounds very political too, because last episode we literally had a bomber. So
we had a bomber in this episode.
Yeah, and we had another bombing attack, and this is it's like a terrorist type attack. So I'm wondering if the writers are aware of what they're doing, or not that it's bad, but I wonder if they're intentionally making it like giving this season political allegory. I wonder if that's intentional or not.
Probably. I do think it's probably intentional. So
I wanted to talk more about Mel and Kayla. I wanted to talk about them and then go into Harry and Jordan.
Okay.
I like that they had alone time. I like when the sisters pair off. Last episode we had Kayla and Maggie bond together, and today now we have Kayla and Mel. It's interesting. You know, what's funny is that we're seeing so much bonding between Kayla, Mel, and Maggie in 6 episodes, more than we've seen with Macy, Maggie, and Mel bond together in the past 3 seasons.
I know, and that kind of makes me a little bit disappointed because I wish that these showrunners were in charge of the show back then
Yeah, at least with
because
season 2.
I feel like we missed out on so much of Macy getting her like, bonding with the sisters, doing things together as a family, being that sisterhood and being that force of good, being that trinity. We didn't get to see hardly any of that in season
Yeah.
2 because the show became the Abigail show and the Harry show.
On
You
Twitter, Joey Falco even acknowledged that he wrote this season and tried to match up with what was seen in previous seasons. So as much as he wanted to like go back and fix things, he had to go by what was shown. And he acknowledged that, maybe Mel is not grieving Macy as much as Maggie is or and everyone else is because they just did not bond. They did not have those bonding moments in previous seasons. So he said that, he's just going by what's shown. And it's true. Season 2 and 3, they hardly had any bonding moments. And it's a shame because there was so much potential there.
It's such a shame that we had to lose Madeline to get new showrunners to get the show to where it is today.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's her leaving that probably made that behind the scenes change with new showrunners. I don't think I think she would have stayed if they changed showrunners sooner. I think because I mean we'll never know why. I think Joey mentioned that after the show's long over, he may get into it. But right now, out of respect for everyone, he's just gonna stick to talking about season 1 and season 4. And then, so going back to what I was saying though, having them bond together and figure out the whole box mystery. We have Kayla. Well, essentially, the box requires a song to activate it or to unlock it. So the only magical musical person that Kayla knows is Dev. And they go to him for help, and he's clearly, what do you call it, influenced by the whole unseen movement. And he's treating them with hostility. So he refuses to help. They go back and Mel decides to and then like we hear from Kayla that she seems to really like him, which is odd because they've only met up the one time and I guess she's really taken to him, which is a little fast, but I mean it's fine. I think they had good chemistry. But anyway, they go back and Mel decides to use a spell from the new Book of Shadows to unlock the book. It's really, I
The
love this scene.
box.
Yeah, to unlock the box. And I really like this scene because it reminded me so much of season 1. So yes, they did use the new Book of Shadows, which I'm not a fan of, but the way that it opened, the way that they held it in front, I mean, it could have passed for the Vera book. Unfortunately, I don't know why they do this, but the director sometimes chooses not to include a close-up shot of the pages or any of the artwork that the prop people worked so hard to do. So we didn't get a good look at it, but the spell was called the Tongue of Babel. And Mel said she used it to like people like with other creatures that didn't speak English. It basically harmonizes like the language into like one common thing that people can recognize. So she
Mhm.
uses the spell on the box and it reveals the tune that it needs to unlock, which is for He's a Jolly Good Fellow. And I like that whole sequence. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice sequence. Um, again, it's more of like the tallyman playing his games, playing in riddles, which is sort of his MO. That's what he does.
This
So
season seems to be a little bit like heavy on mysteries and puzzles. I kind of like that.
there's a whimsical feel to it, and there's also a mystery vibe about it.
Yeah, I'm starting to actually really enjoy the whole mystery with Kayla, because I know that last episode they kind of touched, like they showed who her biological parents looked like. And then they took a break from that for this episode. And I think Joey mentioned that we'll find out, I think in episode 8 or 9, like some coming soon. Coming soon, we'll figure out, like we'll know what it is. But I think it's smart. At first, I was not happy that we would have to wait to find out where Kayla's from, but I'm actually enjoying it. I like the pacing. I like the mystery. So kudos to the writers for keeping us coming back. So let's go on to the Harry and Jordan subplot.
Yeah, so we find out in this episode that Harry, spoiler alert for any of you that haven't seen the episode,
Go watch it.
we find out that Harry has given up his white lighter powers.
At first, when I heard that, I rolled my eyes because I'm like, again? But there's a twist.
He now is a necrolighter. He has the ability to communicate with the dead.
And I guess he needs their body to do it. Sounds like.
I don't know. I mean, we saw him kind of using his power on the corpse of the bomber guy, and that was how he was communicating with it. But that was a bit like, that shocked me a little bit.
Well, at the beginning of the episode, he was already on the floor affected by it. And that's when it started with, Jordan coming in to heal him. So it seems like every time he uses that power, he, I guess, hurts himself or like blackens his hands or something. So it takes a toll on him. But I guess he just needs a dead body in order to communicate. And maybe that's how he gets into the veil, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess they'll explain it more, but that's essentially what this whole mystery trip that he went to. I mean, I don't know how the magical mushroom ties to it, but that's essentially where he's been. He's been MIA for the last couple episodes, and it's revealed that, yeah, he has been talking to dead people in the Vale, and his goal is to talk to Macy again, which is it's really sad and really sweet. I don't know how to feel about that, because imagine someone you love who's passed and you feel like you have a chance to talk to them again. I think anyone would be that desperate.
Yeah, I think that's something that all of us would want to do. So I totally understand that. And I think that it's a really nice way to continue on with Macy's story.
Oh yeah,
I,
and there's the whole, now we have this whole possible storyline where we actually may get to see or hear Macy again. So that's exciting. That's exciting. Maybe they'll recast her. Maybe they'll have they'll invite Madeline back, maybe to do a voiceover or something. But it's exciting that the prospect of me, because I mean, let's be honest, it's a fantasy show. The dead don't stay dead forever. There's ghosts, there's spirits, there's demons. So it would be silly not to hear Macy again. And I know that Madeline is gone, but Macy is still very much part of the show, which I really, really like.
yeah, and I mean, the thing about fantasy and magical shows is anything is possible.
Exactly.
So that is one of the good things. We also got to see a scene of Harry sort of break down when
Yeah.
he's explaining why he did what he did and the whole Macy thing, and we got to see him get upset, which kind of made me sad. Uh, And then
I really it didn't, I mean, I didn't tear up, but like, I mean, if I were more emotional, I'd probably cry over it. But I liked seeing Harry be vulnerable and just lean on Jordan in that moment. It was
yeah,
like I liked it. And you kind of touched on that. They're totally giving Harry and Jordan this bromance, and I'm really, really enjoying it because I was worried that they didn't really know what to do with Jordan the past few seasons. He kind of was just there, then he was cursed, and he was Maggie's plus one. But this season, they're giving him a lot to do. And at first, I was skeptical that they made him a white lighter, but I actually like now that, because you know what I said, when you have power, when you have a character with powers, you have to kind of change things for it to fit. And you can't have two white lighters. It makes the show boring. So what they did is now Jordan is the main white lighter and Harry is now a necro lighter. And I just find that so fascinating. So it's like, not only do they have more time together, like their characters are grouped together more or paired together. Um, that Jordan had a line where he said that the girls have a sisterhood, he and Harry have a brotherhood. And that's such a great way to bring them together. Like, I didn't even think of that. Like, they really go well together, like their chemistry, romance, or whatever. So I'm enjoying it. What about you?
well, I'm still shipping them together. I've been shipping them together since the episode with the leprechaun. I just really like them. So when they like gave each other, when he was like Jordan was comforting Harry, I just thought that was really sweet. So
It's interesting because one of the few episodes from season 3 that we reviewed, um they did pair Jordan and Harry together back in season 3 a few times, and it was not, I mean, it's not that it didn't work, it just was not organic, and like it just didn't work as well as it's working now. Like, I think the writers this season have found their sweet spot on how to pair characters together and how to make, like, with the writing and the plot, it just works so much better now, like this time around.
mhm. So I will say that towards the end of the episode, when we had the revelation that the Tallyman was going to kill loads of innocents, part of me was thinking, okay, are they going to do like something along the lines of the Charmed comics, where I thought that maybe the Tallyman would like bring back like old enemies or something. But I guess his MO was that he was going to use his spiders as bombs. He used,
Yeah, I think that would have had more of a, I mean, I don't know, like I said, I just feel like I wish this was a 22 episode season because this kind of felt like a mid-season finale. You know what I mean? This kind of felt like a good halfway point.
yeah, I know
And
what you mean.
and if we had a full season, this probably would have been like episode 11 or 12, and we would have more episodes that like give us more information about the Tallyman. I just feel like it didn't really quite work for me. Like, there was not much of a, things just happened so fast. Like, I feel like we just barely got to see the Tallyman, and now he's like working out his like final plan, and then now he's gone. It's just like,
Mm.
it's a shame, but I mean, it's fine. But my point is that the whole like spider bomb thing kind of just came out of nowhere. um Even his death scene, it just seemed to happen really, really fast. It felt like a subplot. I felt like it was not as impactful as it should have been, or maybe that was the point. I don't know. um I was more, I liked, I feel like Dev had a much bigger role in this episode than most, and I guess they're building him up to be the love interest for Kayla this season.
Yeah, which didn't surprise me, but the ending of the episode surprised me. That scene with them kissing at the end of the episode, that was very Vampire Diaries.
Yes.
It was very kind of emotional, and I was like, not emotional in a sad way, but like the music. I loved the music. I loved just the ambience, the way it was. It was so Vampire Diaries.
I've noticed that too. I noticed in other episodes this season that it's a very similar vibe to the early days of the Vampire Diaries. And you know what? Good for them. I really think that things needed to change because season 2, season 3 just was not working. And for them to go this direction, I commend the writers so much. I'm so happy. I even tweeted this. It's interesting that you said that it's like the Vampire Diaries, because I literally tweeted that to Joey this morning. I said that I love how his team turned the show around, and I have not been this excited about a CW show since the early days of the Vampire Diaries. And I even tagged the CW in there to be a little shady, but it's just like, they're doing a really good job keeping me invested. Like, I have not watched the show live like this since season 1, because season 2, when they destroyed the Vera book and went off to this weird like safe space thing, like it just killed any interest I had in watching it live.
Yeah.
There was even a point where I didn't even want to watch it week to week. I just watched it when it came on Netflix.
I actually found it difficult to watch.
Same.
It was draining to watch some of these storylines. So to see them flip the show 180 and create these really interesting stories that are mysterious and fun to watch and enjoyable, and I don't think they've really had a bad episode this season. The only episode that I really didn't think that much of was the premiere episode. But other than that, I think that the rest of the episodes have just been brilliant. And this was my favorite episode.
I still think that the Joey's episode, the time travel one last week, that one was my favorite so far. But this one was really good too. I actually appreciate that how they're making Dev a love interest, because it's really rare for shows nowadays to have a South Asian actor given a love interest role. I saw that actor. I forget what his name was. Talwalkar, I think.
Kapil.
So anyway, the actor that plays Dev, I believe his last name is Talwalkar. He was on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, and he had a good role, but he was kind of just off to the side, didn't really do much. And on Charmed, now he's a love interest with one of the main characters. I really like that. I like seeing that representation. I love seeing brown POC in a role like that, because it's really rare to see that.
So, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this episode is we got a power of 3 moment. And it was cue the wind machines. Maggie basically uses the power of 3 to call up a premonition, because she hasn't been able to get one since Macy died. So they use the power of 3 to conjure up this premonition, and she's able to that's how she finds out about it. I really love that scene. I'm not super keen on the way they do the power of 3 effect. There's like a blue effect, and I think they said that effect cost them about $5,000 or something to do.
Wow.
Crazy amount of money. And Joey Falco also revealed that every time that they have a new title card on the show, they have to budget for it. It costs them around, I think they said it was either $5,000 or $6,000 to do one title card. which
That's
is
crazy. That's crazy. There's YouTubers who can do shit like that for free. If I were running a show and it had a budget limitation and I knew that I wanted to do certain things. I mean, I know that there's like legal stuff and maybe contract stuff that gets in the way, and maybe it just less of a hassle, just pay more, like pay the $5,000 to have like someone do it. But I mean, if budget was such an issue, I would just go, take the extra step to like hire someone who, or a fan who can do it for like a lot cheaper. It's just mind blowing that something like that would cost so much money, and they already have a budget issue as it is. It's just like, be frugal.
and that's one of the things that I would say. I feel like if they wanted to dial back on the budget, they don't need to do a glowing aura around them when they're using the power of three. They could just use the wind machine and have some kind of like just normal light on them or something, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that'd be a really cool way to do it. There's ways they can have like a magical effect or atmosphere without going like digital effects, they could do something practical,
Mm.
but
I've always been a really big fan of practical effects. So I would say if they are having budget issues, one of the things that they could do is bring in some more practical effects. Have some real life fire or some real life water or things like that, lighting effects, wind blowing.
yeah, and I'll give an example that's really relevant because it's a CW show. I remember on the Vampire Diaries, there was a scene where, spoiler alert, Jeremy dies, and uh Elaine Jeremy dies, and Elena is a vampire, so she like turns her humanity switch off. So she just like decides to burn her house down with Jeremy in it. And they, that sounds expensive, burning down a whole house set, but that's not what they did. They gave the illusion of doing it. What they did is they set small fires. I'm pretty sure they digitally imposed them, or they did a controlled fire on set, had the characters walk away, and then give the illusion that there was a big fire behind them. And I'm pretty sure there was like a few digital shots, but it's like, that is a great way to do a scene like that that's impactful, with like saving a lot of money, because they didn't have to like burn down a whole freaking house to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Another thing that I really loved about this episode was the fact that we got so much action in it. I love the fact that the girls were like chasing the tallyman, and I cracked up laughing when, because obviously they'd been chasing the tallyman, and then when he went to like kill himself with blow himself up, the girls like turn around and run up the stairs, and it just made me laugh so much, because in my mind I was thinking of that meme with the Virgin Mary statue and the people that are running with it, and it's got Nicki Minaj like rapping really fast in the background. I don't know why, but like every time they were running, that was what was coming up in my mind. Sometimes I think in memes.
Yeah. So there were two bombshells at the end of this episode. Let's start with the one about let's start with Maggie's dad. Mel and Maggie's dad. We find out, I believe his name is Ray, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of this episode, we get two bombshells. One of which is with Ray. We find out that he goes to Jordan and lets him know that he's cursed. Throughout this episode, with his scenes with Maggie, he says that he has a heart condition, he has angina, and you know, it's like the start of heart disease, and Maggie's really concerned, but he's like assuring her that it's under control. But as it's revealed that it's a magical curse, and his heart is literally beating out of his chest, like all red. So that is something that Jordan's going to be wrapped up in future episodes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, that one of the things that I would like the girls to do is deal with some real demons, some real world problems. So when he said he had angina, I was like, this is good. This is like something that they can't, you know, this isn't a magical thing, but obviously they decided, obviously that wasn't the truth and it's a magical thing. I don't know how they're going to deal with that, but I don't know. I just thought the angina thing was more sort of
Oh,
realistic.
yeah, but it's a show. They're not going to talk about heart disease on a show like this. Of course, it's going to be magical.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, one of the things that I want the show to do is to ground itself a little bit more because it's,
Like when like in Buffy, when Buffy's mom died.
yeah, it's like, it's just so much fantastical stuff. I feel like it needs something to like ground it down. Yeah, we can have like gremlins and exploding spiders and you know, net lighters and all that stuff, but I think at its core it is about sisterhood and family. So to have a real world threat on one of their parents that they love so much, I thought that would have been more sort of better in my opinion. That's just my opinion though.
Yeah. Well, I'm eager to find out what this curse is. Like that's just another example of why I'm really liking this season. It makes you want to come back for more.
The other cliffhanger was we found out that Sunny
Is the
is,
mastermind of the whole
yeah,
thing.
and she is up to no good. She has the hair of Maggie that the Tallyman collected. And then she got the blood from Mel when the spider bit her. So now they just need one. Now she just needs one more ingredient.
Yep, and we can assume it's going to be from Kayla. So I wonder how that's going to happen next episode.
Well, I'm wondering if she's going to do some sort of spell to like steal their powers or something. Because if you think about it, they say that their magic is in the blood. Maybe it's some kind of ritual to like take the powers away or do something.
One thing that's really missing from this show, and I'm sure they're doing it intentionally, but on the original show, one of the biggest things that attracted evil, like warlocks and demons, is that they wanted to steal the Charmed One's power, or they wanted to steal the Charmed One's Book of Shadows, or both.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that Sunny is after their powers, or after like control of something, like because they're Charmed Ones, you know, like I'm hoping she's after something from them that is due to their Charmed One status, because that's I feel like that's really missing from this show. Another thing that I really would like is they keep saying, they've already said that you know, like the whole unseen group, like the faction of like the unseen creatures, their gripe with the Charmed Ones is that the Charmed Ones are always saving humans but not the magical community. But the Charmed Ones in this show, they don't really have innocence. Like they don't really, I mean, they don't really save innocence like the original
No,
did.
I
So
mean
I don't know what they're talking about. Like what innocence?
like if you think about it, in the first season they did do some innocent saving, but season 2 and 3 they hardly saved any innocence.
Yeah, it was like, I feel like for the most part the reboot is like a drama where they're just like dealing with like magic. Like I just feel like their drama is just like magical stuff that happens to them, and not so much them versus like evil
Yeah,
or saving people.
yeah, exactly. I feel like the original Charmed, it was like they were like superheroes saving the day every week, and in this Charmed, they're like it's kind of like a soap opera type thing where they're just dealing with their own little dramas and saving just things that happen in their world. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily
Yeah.
they're looking out for people to go and save, or there's, you know, those kind of situations. So it did kind of surprise me when they brought up the innocence thing in this episode. I was like,
But maybe they were talking about witches.
yeah,
Yeah, so because like I mean we did see them like, you know, save witches and actually we didn't really see it that often. It happened, but not like as much as it's make like they're making it sound this season.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean back to what I was saying about Sunny though. I mean, I'm hoping that she ends up being like this big bad that is just, you know, straight up after their powers or looking to corrupt them and turn them evil for her own purposes. I just want a classic villain. So if she ends up being this, I mean, already I'm getting the sense that she's going to be this like classic camp cackling type, you know, evil woman character. I mean,
yeah.
I kind of got some of that vibe from just those last few seconds. So, I mean, I'm hoping that they do camp it up a little more. I wouldn't mind like you know, a little bit like Virginia Madsen in the first season of Witches of East End, like that
Yeah,
kind of vibe.
that's exactly who I was thinking about when you said the like the camp cackling thing. That she came up in my mind immediately.
So, yeah, I'm really loving the season. I'm hoping and praying that they get a fifth season and more. We'll just have to figure it out. But in the meantime, if you are listening and you want more episodes and more seasons, just you gotta watch the show live. And if you're not able to, watch it on the CW app.
Yep, watch it on the CW app. That's the best way
It's free.
to and if you don't have that possibility, another thing that you can do is the show will be going on Netflix. Stream the show on Netflix. If the show has a good audience on Netflix, they might take more, you know, interest in it.
Exactly, because the way the CW operates is that they also look towards the future. So if a show is marketable and they can package it in, you know, to different streaming sites or different channels for syndication, there's money in that. So if there's an audience, so let's say the viewership overall is not that great, but in Netflix or streaming or whatever, it does really, really well. They're going to keep that in mind when it comes to renewing it. So just, you know, watch it on Netflix, watch old episodes on Netflix, or watch new episodes on the CW website, and it's totally free. There's some ads, but I mean, it's worth it. If you want the show to keep going, just keep watching.
Yep, definitely. So, what would you rate this episode?
I'd rate it an 8. No, 7 out of 10.
Oh wow. Is there any reason for that, or
Um, just for the reasons I said, I feel like the whole Tallyman thing did not pan out in like the most exciting or impactful way, unless there's a reason why it went the way it did. I just felt like it was a little anticlimactic
yeah,
considering how much they were building him up. So yeah, I mean, I would say like that was kind of a letdown, but everything else was good. So I mean, I guess I could bump it up to a 7.5. I think that's more fair. 7.5.
I would give this episode a 9.5 out of 10.
Wow.
I really, really loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the drama. I loved the romance. I loved the mystery of it. I loved the, you know, the hair flapping about in the wind with like the power of three. I loved the, you know, Mel and Maggie running, like, you know, just running after and just doing their thing. I mean, it was just, to me, it's what the show should be and what the show is about: strong women saving the day and being magical and being that sisterhood. And I think we got everything we needed in this episode. The only thing that I would have liked to see is I would have liked to see, and this is just me being like you, because we're very invested in the props and stuff. I wanted to see the Book of Shadows. I wanted to see what they were looking at, and that really annoyed me that they were like looking at these pages and you couldn't see what they were looking at.
A lot of us fans tweeted Joey to see if we can get a better look at the Tongue of Babel pages. And he said he wasn't on set for that, so he doesn't have any personal photos because he likes to post pictures of props sometimes and like the sets and things like that, which is really, really cool for him to do that. But he said it's really up to like the director. Sometimes they do close-ups, sometimes they don't. And he said a lot of prop work is wasted. A lot of these artists put a lot of time and effort into making these background details that do not get seen. And he said that's just an unfortunate part of the business.
Yeah, but if they've got a budget problem and they're going to show the book, maybe they should just like make some generic pages with nothing on them so that they don't need to show them on screen.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean,
Because otherwise they're just burning money.
that is a very, very good point. And it's just weird for like, I mean, I'm sure by now that the directors and people who make the show, they're painfully aware that the fans are huge, or like, asking to see the book and wanting the book back. So for them to actually use the book and barely show it, it's like, I'm just gonna say it's a little disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, Charmed fans are like Trekkies. They really are. Like there are a lot of people that, there are people that have made like replicas of the whole Book of Shadows. There are people that have made replicas of the house, like doll houses that like literally remade everything. I mean, crazy stuff. People make like, replicas of the house on like The Sims and all sorts of things. So
Yeah, and the fans that do this, guess what? They watch the show. They buy the DVDs. They stream it whenever it's available because they have to go back and look at screen caps to study these things. So if you're not pleasing those fans, I mean, you like if you're working on the show and you're listening to this, like just keep that in mind. Like it's not really pandering, it's like an investment. If you're putting the time and effort into making these props, into like these set details, show them, because there are people out there who appreciate it, who are fans of it, and it's only going to boost viewership because these are the people that actually watch the show religiously.
So I would have liked to seen that, and I would have liked to see just some kind of emotional scene with Mel, maybe.
Yeah. On Twitter, someone asked Joey, why is it that, a lot of characters are clearly mourning for Macy? Even Maggie, it took a little bit, but we finally saw her come to terms with it. Whereas Mel kind of just was okay from the start of the premiere. I mean, granted, it's a 6-month break in the story. But Joey said that, they did it that way because they needed someone to be like the strong character and like be in a different place with the grieving process. And I agree with that because in the original, like I mentioned earlier, Phoebe was already pretty much past the mourning. She was sad, but she wasn't like Piper. Piper was a mess. And Piper had her big episode where she turned into a fury because she was so heartbroken over Prue. And I guess Maggie beating the crap out of someone was similar to that. She had a breaking point episode. And this episode with her dad was like the aftermath. So it wasn't as intense. It wasn't as intense as as her turning into a fury. Like I was hoping we'd get something like that, but I think for this show it worked.
Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily get a lot of emotion from the actors very often. I mean, they generally don't like get those kinds of scenes very often.
Yeah.
And I feel like Maggie Sarah Jeffrey is probably the stronger actress. So kind of them giving it to her was, yeah.
I kind of want to spill a little tea. There may be a behind the scenes reason why Mel is not really mourning Macy too much. And the reason being is that I strongly believe that there was some beef between Madeline Mantock and Melanie Diaz. Hopefully we get some more info later when the show is long over. Maybe we'll find out what that was. But there were some points where Melanie actually unfollowed Madeline on social media. I think it was after she left or after her announcement that she was leaving. So I think there was some bad blood between them.
I thought that was Sarah that did that.
I think it was Mel.
No,
Melanie
I thought
Diaz.
Sarah followed them. I don't remember Melanie doing that.
Oh.
Maybe she did, I don't know.
Well, if I'm wrong, then just edit it out.
Okay, so I think, have you got anything else to add, or?
No, actually, you're right. It was, I just looked it up right now. It is Madeline that unfollowed Melanie. So that's why I think there's some bad blood between them. Okay, and then you can add that in. All right.
Oh, that's such a shame though, but that's the nature of the business. That's the nature of, but it's kind of funny though, because if you think about it, Mel and Macy didn't get along very well on the show. So for the actresses not to be getting along, that's a little bit. So thank you for watching and thank you for listening. We won't be back this week this week because there's no episode. So we will be back the following week with a review of episode 7.
So the next episode is called Cats and Camels and Elephants. Oh my.
It's a crazy episode title, but you know what? I thought that the last episode title was crazy and it turned out to be a really good episode. So you're like, well, I'm not going to judge it. I'm looking forward to it. And I saw the promo and it looks really good. So I'm excited for it.
So follow us on Twitter. It's PO2_podcast.
And follow us on our news page, Charmed News,
On
where
Facebook.
on Facebook, where we post everything Charmed related. We post about the reboot, but we also post about the original show. So we will be back in 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time.
All right. See you then. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.